Welcome back, traveler. I'm glad that you've returned. This means you enjoyed the first part of Unqwyt's story, so I will not keep you waiting. Let's dive right back in. Before leaving Adonis Almiraj, we asked him a few more questions. We knew he wanted us to go to an abandoned Warforged factory east of the King's Forest near the village of Revan. Before leaving Adonis Almiraj, we asked him a few more questions. We knew he wanted us to go to an abandoned Warforged factory east of the King's Forest near the village of Revan and find his halfling researcher, Taline, and get that which belonged to him, dragon shards. He gave us papers that would excuse us from the King's Forbiddens to go near the forest, as many try to enter to overhunt and to poach. He also tells us that he's paid for a ship to take us close by, and we find out we aren't the only ones he's hired to do this job. He wouldn't elaborate on how many others or how recently, but that we should be careful and ready for a fight. I asked him if he could help me to find a sage or a scholar that would help me answer some questions that nobody else here understands or can help me with. And he said that if we returned successful from this job, that he would put me in touch with someone. I also asked Adonis where I could find some materials that I needed for a few new spells, and he pointed me to a place called the Mirror Market and told me that House Cannith owned it. Where was that name again? I have a feeling that someone from this house will be who I talk to later for answer. We walk into the Mirror Market and we're greeted by a hooded figure only 3 feet tall, and he's standing on the desk. It spoke to us, but it sounded more like click click, bleep bloop. I heard these noises somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where. It put its hands out, and Iridimus walked up and put his chin in the figure's hand, and then suddenly pulls away, and he's like,
oh, you guys gotta try this.
When it extended its hand towards me, I copied Iridimus and put my chin in its hand. The moment that I did, I felt an odd sensation wash over me, and that's when I noticed its flesh. I know what this is. It's a grung. I had a run-in with some back in Chult and ate a few goblins with them. That's another story for another time. I now realize that I can understand him, and he tells me his name is Nibs. I believe I heard Ligaran, the half-robot artificer, mention his name to Kane last night. I ask him for some powdered silver, and he climbs up the walls to some high shelves to get it for me. Got a nice discount too, since Kane mentioned that he's friends with Ligaran. While talking to Kane, Nibs mentions that the shifters are after his secretions to refine and use as drugs. Why would people use drugs and substances to alter their minds? This still baffles me. Before parting, Nibs tells us one more thing. The city watch were in, asking about a lizard performing funerals without a license, and until he saw me, he had no idea who they were talking about. So I have two choices. First, I turn myself in, explain the situation, and apologize, or I conceal myself for now and figure out the best way to go about this. Considering everyone keeps looking at me strange and confuses me for a lizard, I don't think they've ever seen a turtle before. Also, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong, and you shouldn't require a license to practice religious ceremonies. So for the time being, I will conceal myself with a blanket, walk with a little bit of a limp, and just continue our way out of Sharn and deal with this later. As we were heading to the ship that Adonis had requisitioned for us, we were stopped by some of the city guard. Sergeant Vilroy, a tall blonde woman, asks us our business and for our papers. We sure need papers and licenses for a lot of things to do in this place. The sergeant was accompanied by 6 others, 1 Warforged, 1 Changeling, 2 Halflings, and 2 Half-Orcs. I tried to keep my head down, but the officers kept looking at me. Iridimus calls me Grandma at one point, and I'm not sure why. Alice hands the sergeant the papers that we got from Adonis, and the sergeant rolls her eyes and she reluctantly lets us go. She then calls us Adonis's playthings, and that anybody involved with him is shady. We make our way down near the sea after taking an elevator down the cliffside, and the saltwater air was just so refreshing to my snout. It made me think of home. I did notice it's mostly humans and dwarves down here working on the docks, on the ships, and carrying out routine labor jobs. The ship we were looking for stuck out like a sore claw. It was bright, it was gaudy, and it had the same colors as the clothing that Adonis was wearing. I mentioned under my breath that it looks like a lot of the ships in Waterdeep, and I just hear from behind me, "Bless you!" I don't understand. We board the ship and we're greeted by the captain and the crew. The rest of my friends go and talk to the crew and the captain while I go over to the starboard side and just take in some more of that ocean air. I notice some fishing rods and interrupt my friends. I asked the captain if I could fish while we were out, and I was told that we would stop in a few hours for lunch and that I could do so then. I was very excited. It's been quite some time since I fished out on the ocean, not since I was in Neverwinter. Of course I say that out loud, and again I hear, "Bless you!" Is this a joke? I don't understand. When we stopped, I'd caught 2 red snapper, and I used some of my rations to mix it up and cook up a nice little lunch. I shared it with my new friends and with the captain, who really seemed to appreciate my cooking. Finally, not long after lunch, we reached our destination, a small section of coastline that seemed untraveled by ship or by foot. We disembarked near some cliffs and made our way north to the main path and followed it east until we saw a silver ribbon tied to a tree just tucked inside the forest. We went over to investigate and we found a carriage and 2 horses hidden behind an illusory bush of magic. There was also a rarely used path here that we followed through the forest. This must be the path towards Revan that Adonis wanted us to take. The carriage and horses must also be magic of some sort. They just walked on and would glide over mud and shallow water puddles. After traveling this path for a very uneventful 3 days, we came upon a smoky hill with a collapsed entrance. There was a lot of tracks going in and out, as well as a rat trail through the brush where some smoke and steam had seemed to be coming out from. Iridimus goes straight for it like a bull in a china shop. We all follow him and find a clearing. Coming out of the back of the hill are 2 6-foot pipes, one of which has this black sludge slowly coming out of it. They both have grates, and Cain tries to break his way in, unsuccessfully, until Iridimos uses his head. Literally. We hear a slight hissing noise, and then steam suddenly comes rushing out of it. Immediately after the steam is gone, Cain goes rushing in. We wait for a few minutes for him to return, but then steam comes out again, not as much, and I rush in to make sure he's okay. He made his way onto the other side of the gate that holds the steam in. Him and I both managed to open it together, and I used a hammer and piton to hold the gate open, slowly releasing the steam instead of big spurts of it. It's really hot in here. The rest of our friends come and catch up to us, and we start to explore the factory. In a room near the steam pipe, there was a lot of unfinished Warforged, parts hanging on hooks, laying on conveyor lines all over the floor. Warforged in various states of completion were everywhere, most toppled to the ground. There was a prototype arm with a retractable blade that we took. It could come in handy. Going through the closest doors, we find ourselves locked in a room with 2 statues pointing in different directions, one to the east and one to the south. Above a different door, there was writing in, I believe it was Dwarvish, and Iridimos used some magic so he could read the words. He read it to himself, and we got the clues to the answer through his self-muttering. We turned both statues until one of the doors opened. In this room, there were floating tables coming in from one side and going out another. We decided to follow the tables and were brought into a mine shaft of sorts. There were some kobolds and goblins mining these crystal formations and loading the pieces onto the floating tables. Standing there, watching over them, was a man wearing grayish-brown robes and had a sash over his left shoulder. He was wearing a hat of the same color with a blue ribbon. The same hat on the sleeping man on the train. He turned and saw us, clutching the marble wand that he had tucked under his sash with blue cloth wrapped around the handle. He turned his head toward us and smiled. And that's where we'll end the story for today. Come back next week and I'll tell you how Unqwyt and his friends deal with this situation. I might even show you. Hey guys, sorry about the late release on this one. I was a little busy. Some of you know, some of you don't. So, ta-da! Born on May the 4th. Great for a Star Wars nerd like myself. For now, he is known as Youngling. So now we have Sprout and Youngling. Yeah, I was a little late getting this video out, but I'm going to make it up to you with a recreation of the fight that happens following this story right here. And I'm going to release that next weekend, hopefully. We'll see. That's the timeline I'm aiming for. So yeah, thank you guys so much for checking this one out as well. I hope you're really enjoying these. I did get quite a bit of positive feedback in the last video. Again, if there's anything you want me to change, like how I say it, if you want special pictures added in, I think I'm going to do that in this video. But yeah, if there's anything you feel like can help make this a better experience for you without, literally recording the sessions or anything, please feel free to let me know, and I will take them into consideration. If I can do it, I'll do it. If not, I'm sorry. So yeah, thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you guys later. Welcome. Welcome back, traveler. Yes, I'm actually using my notes, by the way, guys. Just so you know. Hello, blooper reel. And find his halfling researcher, Taline, Haley. Yeah. Everything's good here. How are you? How are you? Mouth a little dry. That's not what it sounded like. I asked him for some powdered silver and he climbed up the walls like he was some sort of Spider-Man. I won't make that joke. I can't. Okay. When did you stop recording? What? Oh, I see. It's when I told the keyboard to move out of the way, and then I told it I can show you the way. Apparently, I hit the button and stopped recording. Aw, come on! But there was a good blooper in that part. Y'all missed a good blooper. I don't remember what it was, but prestidigitation. No? Okay. Eridimos, stop making your name so hard to pronounce. That was a grammar mistake. So we get down near the sea. Down by the sea. Down by the sea. Everything's wetter. Down where it's wetter. Duh, listen to me. I'm not putting singing in the bloopers. Fuck that. On the ships and carrying out I before E except a C and enemy. Oops and cats. I did it again. Oops, I did. She's naked again. After traveling this path for a very uneventful, Eridimos goes straight for it like a bull in a china shop. Get it? Because he's a minotaur. Never mind. They both have grates, and Crane tries to... Crane? Who the fuck's Crane? Great Cane. Great Cane. Great Cane. There was a prototype arm with a retractable blade that we took. Could come in handy. Get it? It's a hand. Oh, I'm funny. Fuck all of you. Y'all got any more of that nicotine?